Hey everyone, thank you for joining me in another Fix My Lab Challenge solution video. Here I'm going to go over what was wrong in my broken topology and show you how to fix it. So if we look at what the issues were, we see that PC0 cannot ping PC1. The only rule was that you could not use VLAN 1. And the success criteria was simply that you could ping between the two hosts. Right away in the topology, we can see that we have red status links on this connection between the core and switch 2, which is going to indicate a layer 1 problem, meaning that the physical interfaces are not coming up for some reason. So let's start by diving into that. So I'm going to left click on switch 2, go to the CLI, and the first thing I'll do is just show interface status, just to get a quick view into the status of all the interfaces on the switch. When we hovered over the links, I could see that it was port 2 on switch 2 connecting to the core, and right away I see a problem here. The link is actually disabled, meaning that it's been administratively shut down. So obviously the link's not going to work in the disabled state, so let's go ahead and enable it with the no shut command and see what happens. So we'll go to configuration mode, go to interface F02, and we'll say no shut. And things are already looking better on that link. Looks like it's in the up state now, it's going green. So when spanning tree goes in the forwarding state, we should see that link is up and happy. So even though the link went green on the switch 2 side, for some reason we have amber lights on the core side for both of these edge switch to core connections. So that's indicating that the port's up, but it's not in the forwarding state for some reason. So let's hop in the core and see what's going on there. Before I even log into the switch, I can already see some error messages popping up, and it says that received the 802.1q BPDU on a non-trunk interface, and then blocking port 2 on VLAN 1, inconsistent port type. This is basically telling us that one side of the link is in trunk mode and the other side is in access mode. And since these are switch-to-switch connections, we would want those to be in trunk mode on both sides, because you're always going to want to have a consistent port config between your switch connections. So let's just take a look at those interfaces. So if I hover over these, we're dealing with port G101 and G102. So I'll just do show run. And if we look here, these ports are in switch port mode access, which they should be in switch port mode trunk. Let's take a look on the remote switch side real quick. So F01 on here. Okay, it looks like we are in trunk mode on the switch 0 side. Let's double check switch 2 here. That is also properly configured in trunk mode. So it looks like this next problem is on the core side. So I'll go to configuration mode, and since I want to make a similar change on both of these ports, I'm actually going to use the range command with interface range G101 through 2. And we'll say switch port mode trunk. Alright, so the links are now in the up state, and we have green LED status lights on both ends of the link, so things look good. Just to make sure, what I like to do to verify my trunk links, to make sure they're forwarding and happy, is run the show interface trunk command. And this shows me if my ports are in trunk mode, what VLANs they're allowing, and most importantly, what VLANs are in the forwarding state, so I know what layer 2 traffic would actually pass on those links. Alright, so now that everything at least visually looks good from a link perspective, I'm going to start diving into doing some real troubleshooting here. So first I'm going to go to PC0 here, and I'm going to see if it can ping PC1 at 10.0.10.21. And it does not look like it can. So where I would start here would be to look at the switch port configuration to make sure that these devices are on the same VLAN and that VLAN is carried all the way between the switching topology. So if I look here, it looks like, I think port 3 is what it looks like we're on the switch here. So just by looking at the config, I can see that it's switch port mode access and then voice VLAN 11. So voice VLAN 11 means that the phone tag traffic is going to be on VLAN 11, but what about the computer's traffic? That should be on some separate untagged VLAN. And right now, since there's not an actual access VLAN assignment, then all the traffic from this computer would be landing on VLAN 1 right now, which is the default VLAN for any access mode port. So knowing that breaks the rule I had of not using VLAN 1, so clearly we need to assign this computer port to some VLAN so that it can successfully communicate across this switching topology. So clearly we have VLAN 10 for data, VLAN 11 for voice, and VLAN 12 for management. What I was going for here was having you actually assign the port to VLAN 10, since that's what should be used for our data communication between the PCs. And really, I guess, based on my rules, you could have used any VLAN, so as far as your solution submissions, I'll make sure to be flexible on that, because I really didn't say specifically to use VLAN 10. So let's go to interface F03, get it out of VLAN 1, and I'm going to put it in VLAN 10. And then I'm going to do show interface trunk again, just to make sure that traffic should be forwarding on VLAN 10 out this trunk port up to the core. And here I can see it's in the forwarding state out the F01 port going to the core. So from a layer 2 perspective, we should be good, at least up to the core. Let me try to run our ping again and see if that was it. So clearly we still cannot ping PC1, so let's dive a little bit deeper into the issue here. So from what I can see, I'm good on switch 0. My access mode port connected to the phone, which would connect to the PC, looks good. And I know my trunk link's good. So now I'm going to log into the core here and make sure that it has everything that I would expect it to for VLAN 10. So if I do show interface trunk here right away, I can see that I don't see VLAN 10 in my allowed list or in the forwarding state. So right away, I know that if traffic came tagged with VLAN 10 from this switch to the core, it would just drop that traffic because it doesn't have it in its forwarding state. So let's see why that would be. First off, I'll just do show VLAN. And right away, I can see that VLAN 10 does not exist in our VLAN database. Well, for switches to forward traffic for a VLAN, they have to have the VLAN created. So let's go to config mode, and I'll just say VLAN 10. I'll give it a name of data so it matches our other switches. Control Z to get back into privilege mode, and I'll do show interface trunk again. And now I see it being allowed, but not in the forwarding state. Well, it's not in the forwarding state just because spanning tree is going through its learning process. But shortly here, we should see it show up in the forwarding state. And at that point, I would consider us to be good on the core. And we'll do a test again and see if we have to troubleshoot anything else. There we go, we're in the forwarding state. Let's go and try the ping again. And now we're getting replies. So that was the final thing that I had broken in this topology. Just to review what we did here. First, I had port F02, I believe it was, in the shutdown state on switch 2. That was the first thing I broke. Then on the core, we had these links in access mode instead of trunk mode. We didn't have VLAN 10 on the core switch. That was the third thing I had broken. And then the fourth thing that was broken was the misconfiguration of the VLAN assignment for this access mode edge port. So that's it. We fixed the topology. I hope you had fun with this. I'm going to try to keep creating these on a weekly basis as consistently as I can. So I would say just every Monday, go to the IPversity website, go to the Fix My Lab page, and there you'll be able to check to see if I posted any new challenges. If you enjoyed this kind of training exercise, I would recommend checking out my complete CCNA course, which I've provided a link for down below in the description for this video. Take care, and I look forward to trying to stump you on our next Fix My Lab challenge.